So much love and appreciation to those of you who have been with me for the 2 year period plus that I've been doing this. Thank you for showing your love and support to the channel. And to anybody else who is brand new to the platform and you would like to support the channel, also, you can do it by way of Patreon, Anchor, the clothing store, and also the shoe shop that is listed in the comment description below. And again, thank you to any and all of you guys who have been here to support this channel during the 2+ year period. I wouldn't be able to do what I do every single day without you. The Sunday night shooting took place during a festival called Mochella, which was celebrating Juneteenth. The 15-year-old boy, identified by police as Chase Pooley, was killed, and three people, including a DC Metropolitan Police officer, were injured. The officer is expected to be okay, and two civilians were listed in stable condition. No suspects are in custody at this time. Police are collecting evidence and interviewing witnesses. A reward of up to $25,000 has been offered for any information leading to the arrest of the government and conviction. Quote, the person who took Chase's life and brought this violence to our community must be held accountable. Now, this is what I am going to say. My condolences to the families of both teenagers, because two lives have been taken, not just one. You have one that was, taken by the senseless actions of, gunfire, by whatever activity or whatever disputes, the two teams basically have. And then you have the other aspect of the shooter, who was young as well, who decided to enact and who decided to, take the life of somebody else who looks just like him, right? Now, this is my problem, right? And this is the main thing that I've talked to people about before. On top of the fact of, us as a community basically dealing with our kids, trying to stop a lot of this nonsense from going on. I've had conversations here where I've told parents, like, hey, spend more time with your kids. Start to ask your kids more questions. Start to, look at what your kids are into. Start to get into the things that your kids, are directly into, right? In order to curb, a lot of this from happening. Start getting your kids into more opportunities of sports and other things, so that they can consistently stay busy, so that their mind frame won't be on, let me go out here in the streets to see what attention I can get. Let me go out here in the streets and see, what I can get into, right? Because at the age of 15, that's not what you should be doing at all. But the on top of that, the other thing that I want to focus on is the usage of the term mass shooting, right? Whenever it comes to black people now, because the main people that people have to pay attention is that over the years, they've been trying to transition a lot of the wordage onto black people. Like, once it starts off as Caucasian in nature, right, where it comes from. So let's go back to the pandemic, right? Originally, you had Caucasian individuals who were the main ones, catching and spreading the pandemic, because they were going back and forth taking trips to, China and so on. And then later on, it ended up here about December, January of I'm sorry, yeah, December, January of 2019, and leading into 2020, right? And then that's when, everything started to kick off. So when it turned into about like March, somewhat nearing summer, it went from just it being them and them solely being affected to now it's a black community thing. Now it's a black thing. Now it's a black health problem. Now it's a black health crisis, right? And then they started making this major push towards the black community. Started really pushing all resources, all news, all everything to black people, right? Getting up the fear and everything like that. And then later on, it started, moving on to a whole nother group, not as intense, not as consistent, but it moved on to other groups, right? So now when we have these mass shootings, We saw the main people who's sitting up there doing this, and for the longest time, past 10 years, who have historically been doing this in America when it's been considered a mass shooting, because that has been the terminology and the name given whenever that takes place by their people. So now the media is like, oh, we're tired of, giving that narrative to our own people. Let's start sliding this branding directly onto black people and the black community. So now you're basically seeing them use this terminology to, in a sense, try to shift it, or to try to generalize the term, as to make it seem like it's not just one group that's doing it, but it's other groups that's contributing and that's doing it as well. So we can't just look at this one group and say that they're mass shooters. We need to look at everybody as mass shooters, because everybody has the potentiality to be a mass shooter. Like I said before, when it dealt with the black community, nobody cared. Nobody cared. Why? Because they didn't have any type of branding for it. They would just say like, "Oh, it was a shooting that took place. This man or this 15-year-old or these groups of individuals, they sat up there and did it." Right? They would say that they would have a gunman or a group of gunmen. That's what they would normally go for. Now they're like, we got to start branding black people. We got to find a way to sit up there, monetize this, and to make money off of it, because somehow, some way, this is going to be a continuous thing. We don't know how it's going to be a continuous thing, but somehow, some way, this is going to be a continuous thing. So this is what we're going to do. So don't be too shocked if you start seeing more stories directly, let's say, like out of the main black areas, Chicago, Detroit, places down south, California, anywhere where there is a high amount of black people. Don't be too shocked if they start listing all of these as mass shootings. Do not be too surprised. Because notice, whenever police are basically in any type of, gunfire, right? And other people around get harmed, they've never categorized that as a mass shooting. They've never categorized it. They'll say that police returned fire towards a gunman, and the gunman, sat up there and aimed at a multitude of people around, and yada yada yada. That's normally what they'll sit up there and do. They'll never categorize it as a mass shooting, right? They'll categorize it as a shooting incident with police, a shootout with police. Like I said, they have different types of brandings for different types of things. So what they're doing right now, just like what they did for like the last 2 years with the black community, they're doing the exact same thing now. They're shifting over from one branding, and they're shifting over to a brand new branding onto a whole nother group of people, which this was never associated about, because we all know, when you look through the media and everything else, the media never cared about the black community, black people, or the things that realistically took place in the black community. The only time that the media actually cares is when they can monetize, and when they can group all of this together in some type of picturesque format and make it seem like this is what's happening in every single black community. This is what's happening amongst all black people. This is what black people are sitting up there doing with their time and energy. When they can sit up there and generalize and formulate a type of story and wrap the narrative around that, you're going to sit up there and see them push those things out. And we've seen that throughout the decades. So this is just something else that they're adding to the pot. And don't be too surprised if they start adding brand new names or other terms that was once used for other groups and placing that directly onto black people, because they're trying to see what is going to stick and what is not going to stick. And if they really want to use this and it's not sticking with people, and they're not using this terminology to associate with black people, you're going to see them push more stories using this exact same branding when it comes to black people.